I hope we have received the cards. We'll be able to display them. We're going to give them to the facilitator, and then we're going to get out what was your thoughts on the prospects. But generally, we take the note of being the first national platform of women to engage in climate change, and we anticipate to unite the voices of grassroots women so that we reduce their vulnerabilities to climate change. Then we're going to establish linkages with other players, nationally and internationally. And we are going to participate actively in pushing the women agenda. Everybody is talking about gender. Any table is discussing about gender, but it is left there. Gender is a buzzword now. So can we see the actual meaning of gender representation, gender equity, gender equality, gender everything? So that we are going to give it the correct interpretation. So this network is actually going to demystify that buzzword of gender. A very senior person, the chief executive, the executive secretary of the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework on Climate Change, said one thing which I've quoted in our profile. It's not just enough to bring the word gender on our discussion table. It's more important to bring out the women participation in decision-making processes. And I think that's what the network is going to do. Let us not be treated of gender. When you hear of gender, those are the laws, but let's see how much are women participating. What I can tell you is that the consultant is going to deal with you very, very actively.
So I will give a certain the director from the office. Practical action, are you there?
Yes, she's here.
Yes. She needs to be given just a few minutes to talk to the other ladies because she's going out, right?
My name is Grace Mukasa. I'm the Regional Director for Practical Action in East Africa. And I was requested by Cecilia to come and address you. We are developing a partnership with your organization. So we are really very interested in the type of strategy you will develop because it will affect us. And we've also just completed our own strategy. Are we going to become carrots and say, oh, that's life, things are hard, we have nothing to do? Do you want to become a carrot? No. With care, with the practical action, when you are really looking for resources and the skills and the people to work with. So you need to be very, very clear what is special about you. So I really hope that 2 days you are going to be together. We'll deliver something very strong. We'll deliver something that you can work with pride, but that any one of you would be able to really explain that strategy. So, and I must leave. I wish you all the best. Make a difference for women in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Dr. Mutunga to continue with the process.
We are here for the next 1 or so days to look at strategic planning for this organization. The organization itself is called what? Kenya Climate Justice Women. Our strategy number 1 is, or our aim number 1, or our theme number 1. You can use any of those ones interchangeably. In fact, even goals. You can call it a strategy, a theme, a goal, an objective, strategic objective is to do this. To be able to achieve this through this means. To change the status. Those could be time-bound, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, 10. It could also be generally placed without time limitations. In other words, it will be a continuing statement of intended future results. This is what we want our future to look like. So that array of strategies, aims, goals, or themes is what we call a strategic plan. But there are several. After 1 year, what do we expect to see? After 2 years, what do we expect to see? At the end of 6 months, what do we expect to see? So that enables the implementers, those who are driving the actions every day, to be able to know that we are there. It enables anybody else who may come to see whether to monitor, to see whether you are actually there at the point in time you're supposed to be there. Those are things that you can incorporate in the future's elaboration of the strategy. What we then require at the beginning, we require commitment of this group. I'm assuming this is like the governing council of we be able to do the strategic plan, for instance. This organization has decided that you require a facilitator. We've been negotiating for quite some time to see whether we can have a day that we can probably be together. And you also realize that you need to be there present as the people who own this organization. That's participation. And so on, because we shall share responsibilities thereafter. Now, the timing. Based on what I've seen in the documents, you are registered in 2010. Yeah? Registered, you are under a consultative group that met in 2010. You basically, this was driven by a team of a small group, a team of professionals who thought it was necessary to have this kind of a platform. And you are motivated basically by the gaps that you find in the international fora when it comes to women representation. Even at the national fora, I don't think there is a lot of women representation, especially on climate issues. And as somebody said yesterday, the majority of the people who suffer climate impacts are women. Between what the organization is capable of doing with what the organization would like to do. Very many organizations would like to do everything, especially under the current situation that we are in. Being a developing country, very resource poor, therefore needy and progressively looking for ways and means, then we probably would like to have as much of the work with us as possible, as many partners as possible. Let me warn you. When it comes to strategic planning, actually you are making a decision that we shall only allow those partners who fit within the prescriptions we are putting today. For the period that we have decided to have this strategy, maybe you can put the flexibility to revise it, to close the performance gap. When you determine the time, which we are going to determine soon after this, then we need to be sure that this particular strategic plan will cover time enough for us to accomplish the tasks and responsibilities that we have commissioned ourselves or committed ourselves to do. Now, it should be visionary, in the sense that it should convey the desired future end statements. It should be able to deliver what you agree that you want to deliver. It's a bit on the higher side. 3 is a bit probably on the lower side, maybe 4 or 5 strategies. And within those ones now you can do any kind of proposal writing. Remember, this is not a proposal, it's not a fundraising document. It is an organizational guiding document, which basically now you can find space within the strategies. When you develop that strategy, you release it to the implementers. The leadership does not necessarily, and I want to be very careful when I use some words, not necessarily implementers. You may have to decide who are going to be at what level of the organization. So many of us will be at leadership, so many of us will be at the actors level. Probably we shall set secretaries to drive some of these functions and so on and so forth. These are the things that the economic status, the socio-economic status basically, the technological advancement and the needs, the acquisition level, the possibilities, the endowment levels, the ease of acquisition of technology. Then, well, I talked about that. Timing may be important for capitalizing on opportunities. Then, make sure that you plan with that in mind. There is somebody called Murphy's, and Murphy's came up with a law that has 3 statements. The first statement says that as you plan, remember these 3 statements. Number 1, in line with all those things that we have mentioned, there are 11 issues we have mentioned. Those are the guiding parameters. Do the strength. And you don't know which group you are going to be, so you better write all of them down. Group number 2 will do the weaknesses. That's group number? Group number 5 will analyze the political climate of this country called Kenya, which will basically look even at the constitutional issues, the provisions, the devolutions, and so on. The policies that be, it will look at all those things. That is group number 5.
Of leadership.
In leadership.
Yeah. It is really want to do this and this causes. Which are these natural causes and which are these man-made that are causing climate change? Like for us, for example. Internal. So now we are going to internal.
From her introductory remarks, that they have a small secretariats connected there, so that the coordination, I think coordination is a strength.
Okay. To move on with.
So I've included it in the first part. So I've written the gap.
Now, we are starting with the group number 1, and the issue as...
So it has several steps. Diversification of membership, it's all over Kenya.
It has diversity of members, diversity of membership.
We're not saying they cannot deliver, but it would be better if there were many, especially... Yes. We also saw that there are insufficient publicity or communication materials. Yes. And we had an example of it would be good if they had, for instance, a newsletter.
Florida?
Jane.
Is she Florida or Florida?
Florida.
Florida, yes.
Yeah, Jane. Opportunities of KCJWC. The external ones were number 1, existing networks of women groups. Government.
The barriers we have, one of the barriers is education.
One of them is education.
Yes.
So there is poorly coordinated messaging on climate change.
Let's give the consultant 5 factorial. Start 1, 2, 3. I think you have seen the energy that he has. So I welcome to you, welcome Mrs. Bahati Mwita.
You already have defined climate justice. We are calling it climate justice is the fair treatment of all people and freedom from discrimination with the creation of policies and projects that address climate change and the systems that create climate change. And then we keep destroying the forests, the bushes to cure the tobacco, and then continue polluting the environment with the smoke. And of course, as we grow the tobacco, we use chemicals, we pollute the waters, and it becomes a cycle of land degradation and destruction of the environment. We are ignorant of the impact of all these things onto climate change, because those emissions, those gases, those everything that go into the ocean, we already see that our us grazing or farming, yeah, and manage the same in a sustainable manner. So in your own context here, in your strategic plan, what is the sustainable manner? So those are some of the issues that I think we need to really highlight. Then let us move to climate change. Gender inequities influence the access and control of resources. We mentioned it there. Education, employment, like in our communities here, maybe some to go into industry, because we are going to be industrialized vision 2030. We need to know that from the university, what kind of technologies are we going to adopt to be industrialized, and we don't destroy our future forever. Thank you very much.
Women are very powerful. Dr. Mutunga, these women are very powerful. And that's why even if a man is beaten, he doesn't say, "Oi, Baba." He says, "Oi, what?" So you have a power. The law is in your hands. Kenya Climate Change Working Group will support anything. We'll go out of our way to make sure these women champions are real champions. Whatever you have, our doors are open. We're in the process of getting a strategic plan which is headed by Dr. Mutunga. We must mainstream our women somewhere there. So that
1, 2, 3.
Education and the cost of education has gone up, and the grassroots woman can no longer afford the cost of educating the kids or the children, and this applies more on the women-headed households in the rural areas.
And then the last one is the rise cost of fuel has made it unbearable, especially for the rural women who are using paraffin for cooking.
Okay, Group 8, the members of the groups are Jennifer Moyake, the chair from Kilifi, Galgalo, Presenter Isiolo, Sabina Nyeri, Maximilia Okello, Bugoma, Paris, Siaya, and the presenter is Galgalo.
Yes. Leadership and passion and visible management systems that take into account the needs of its members and partners. Limited resources to upscale programs, inaccessible and vastness of some of the counties, like for example limited information.
This is a step where we are going to develop objectives. We shall develop objectives in this way. An objective basically solves an existing problem. You must be very clear of the problems you are solving. Problems are housed in what? In dress, isn't it? Is that the only compartment you find problems in as what?
Interference with the climate system. Climate change will affect all countries in all parts of the globe, but impacts will be distributed differently among all regions, generations, age classes, income groups, occupations, and gender. So we see that gender will be affected differently. Men and women will all be affected by climate change, but differentiated impacts will be found among men and women. When looking at the impacts who are making decisions up there, they do not deal with climate change on the ground. It's the women on the ground who know how they're supposed to adapt to these issues, and they are being overlooked. The opportunities and barriers for women to cope with disasters today could play a similar role in adaptation to climate change. So when looking at gender and mitigation issues, you find that due to technical or scientific nature of mitigation, the exploration of gender aspect is still at the initial stages. In developing countries, burning biomass for household cooking, heating and lighting represent a higher percentage of overall energy use. And who are these people who are using these biomass for household cooking? It is the women. Women are traditionally responsible.
Vibrant, V-I-B-R-A-N-T. Yes? Which is the other one that you think about? The other one that you want to identify with? Ethical, yes. Ethical may encompass accountability and transparency and all that. Ethical. Okay? Ethical. Integrity and ethical are more or less the same thing. Let's put ethical instead of integrity. And then we see whether we are home with those 6. The basket looks like that. I mean, like this, the type. Okay. Put all of them under the same case.